Alright, so today I'm back again with episode Nagi. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we will go over the third chapter, which is the first one inside of the Blue Lock facility. Anyway, I'm not going to hold you here for any longer, as I know that you guys want to get right into the chapter, so just be sure that you leave a like, a comment, and of course subscribe to the channel, and while you are at it, you could always join the Discord server down in the comments. But with all of that out of the way, let's finally get into it. As they all entered the room, Henri welcomed them and informed the group that from that moment on, she would be collecting their phones and wallets. When she reached for Nagi's phone, he hesitated, clearly not ready to part with it. Rio, noticing this, advised Nagi to give it up, and after a brief pause, Nagi reluctantly complied. Once Henri had taken his phone, Nagi turned to Rio and asked him what number he had received on the bodysuit given by Henri. Rio looked down at his shirt, examining the number printed on it, and stated that he had been given the number 250. He added that it seemed like they were supposed to change into the suits in their specific rooms. They made their way down the long corridor. Nagi glanced around, noting how expansive and complex the space seemed. He remarked that the place was massive, resembling a maze, and confessed that it reminded him of the Squid Game. As they walked further, they eventually found room V and entered. Rio was slightly taken aback when Nagi reiterated that the setup reminded him of Squid Game, to which Rio agreed. Their conversation was interrupted when a guy approached them with great enthusiasm. He loudly declared that they were the genius combo from a previous game and that it was fate they were together again. The guy ground his teeth in frustration, explaining that his team had lost because they underestimated Nagi and Rio. He stated that today would be the day they determined who was truly stronger. Nagi, looking puzzled, asked Rio if he knew who the guy was, to which Rio casually replied that he had no idea and didn't remember him. This caused the guy to become visibly angry. He yelled at them, insisting that he was the ace of a powerhouse school they had miraculously defeated and that they should make sure to remember him. Nagi, still appearing confused, muttered something about a muddy yucca, which only served to further irritate the guy. Rio, unfazed by the outburst, greeted the guy and then scanned the room, commenting that it looked like they had split up all 300 strikers into various rooms, which he found a bit confusing. His attention was soon drawn to another guy struggling with his clothing. Rio pointed out that this guy seemed to be stuck in his shirt. The guy was frantically trying to free himself and shouted for help, complaining that his shirt was defective because it didn't have a hole in his head and he feared he might suffocate. Without hesitation, both Rio and Nagi rushed to his aid. Rio helped the guy remove the shirt, while Nagi went a step further and pulled off his pants. After being freed, the guy stood there awkwardly, and Rio pointed out the obvious, that he had been wearing his pants as a shirt. Nagi agreed, noting that the guy had also been wearing his shirt as pants. The guy looked down at his clothes, finally realizing the mix-up, and sheepishly admitted that he knew it all along. Trying to brush it off, he claimed that it was a good brush-up for his release, though it was clear he was trying to sound more confident than he felt. Rio, amused by the situation, laughed and teased the guy for trying to use English words but failing miserably. He pointed out that the guy's attempt at speaking English was all over the place. Nagi always bluntly chimed in by calling the guy an idiot, which caused the boy to protest, claiming he wasn't an idiot but rather naturally funny. Another person in the room, equally confused, asked what the guy was even talking about. At that moment, suddenly the TV screen in the room flickered on, immediately grabbing everyone's attention. Igo's face appeared on the screen, his cold, authoritative voice filling the room. He asked if they were all dressed, drawing their focus to him. Igo went on to explain that the people in the room with them were not only their roommates, but also their rivals, meant to push each other to greater heights. He then informed them that he had personally assessed their abilities and ranked them accordingly. Nagi, upon seeing his rank, was shocked at how low it was, while Rio, less concerned about his own rank, thought about who might have received the highest ranking. Igo continued, explaining that the numbers on their uniforms represented their current ranks. He added that these rankings would change daily, fluctuating based on their performance in both training and games. Igo also warned them that only those who finished in the top 5 would automatically qualify for the upcoming tournament, which would take place in 6 months, the U20 World Cup. He stressed the importance of the tournament, as it would determine who would represent Japan as forwards. His warning was stern and clear, as those who failed at Blue Lock would lose their chance to ever represent Japan. The key to succeeding in this process, he emphasized, was their ego. After a brief pause, Igo announced that they would now begin a small entrance test to measure their aptitude. He then declared that it was time for a game of tag, causing a ripple of confusion and curiosity to spread through the room. Igo explained the rules. The time limit was set at 136 seconds, and whoever was it at the end of that time would be sent home. He further clarified that if they were hit with the ball, they would become it, and whoever was it when the time ran out would lose. Igo also added that they were not allowed to use their hands during the game. As he finished explaining the rules, the door to the room opened and a football rolled inside. The countdown began, and without hesitation, everyone scrambled into position, ready for the challenge ahead. Igo stated that even professional players use tag as part of their warm-up, but this was no ordinary warm-up. He called it an egotism test, something he had devised to determine who truly had the essence of a striker. The players were told to prepare themselves for battle. Meanwhile, in the control room, Igo explained that this wasn't just any game of tag. The clock showed the countdown, and the boys were in shock. They couldn't understand what was happening. To them, the idea of deciding their future through a game of tag seemed insane. They thought the whole thing was absurd, and even Nagi agreed with them. However, Ryo cringed, saying that this was the best opportunity they could ever have. He then pushed his hair back, reminding them that if they managed to make it into the top 5, they would automatically be on the U20 national team. This was the chance of a lifetime. Nagi, not missing the moment, told him that this was great, teasing Ryo about entering his protagonist mode. Suddenly, a guy ran toward them, claiming that the two of them would lose to him and be sent home. All the players dodged away from the football. The boy shouted, declaring that he would focus only on Ryo and Nagi, planning to send one of them home and then crush the other half of the genius combo. As the boy closed in, Ryo laughed while running, daring the boy to try if he could. The boy shot the football directly at Nagi's face, but Nagi dodged it effortlessly. While dodging, Nagi observed the room and noticed that it looked familiar. It had the same dimensions as a penalty area. At first, the other guys seemed confused, but they soon agreed, realizing that the limited time of 136 seconds was a clue. Nagi thought about how, in a 90-minute match, a player typically touches the ball for only about 136 seconds, meaning that any striker who couldn't make an impact within that time wasn't cut out for the job. The other guys were surprised, as they hadn't noticed this detail before, and they marveled at how Ryo and Nagi had figured it all out. Ryo turned to Nagi, telling him they would outlast the others. Nagi half-jokingly asked if losing on purpose was an option, to which Ryo laughed, telling him that it would actually be easier to win against this guy. Nagi, smirking, casually agreed, deciding that in that case, he would just win. The boy, now enraged, charged at them with full force, declaring that they were dead. Nagi, seeing the boy's aggression, suggested he should target someone else, but Ryo couldn't help laughing, telling the boy that if he kept focusing on them, he was only going to self-destruct. The boy ignored them, but then another guy caught everyone's attention with an explosive burst of speed, leaving both Nagi and Ryo in shock. Nagi asked Zantetsu what he was doing, but the guy only responded with a cryptic remark that things were bad for them as he was going to be the one who won. He addressed the audience, stating that if he could steal the ball, he could win since the game would stop when someone else became it. Both Nagi and Ryo were taken aback by his logic. The guy then waved at the monitor, calling out to Igo, asking if he could see him. The other guy, furious, demanded that he give the ball back, reminding everyone that the person who was it at the end of the game would lose. Zantetsu just laughed at him, adjusting his glasses as if everything was under control. He confirmed with the boy that the player who was it had to hit another player with the ball to make them it, and smugly remarked that this was his type of tag. Ryo burst out laughing, praising the guy for being an absolute fool. He commented that the guy was a natural-born idiot, and Nagi couldn't help but agree, adding that the way he tried to sound smart while using complicated words only made him look and talk like a fool. The other players chimed in, all calling him an idiot. Zantetsu, visibly annoyed by the taunting, ran at them, shooting the football while angrily shouting that only idiots called other people idiots. As he targeted them, Ryo told Nagi to start running in a zigzag pattern, suggesting that it would make it harder for their opponent to chase them. Everyone began dodging and avoiding Zantetsu as best they could, and Ryo started feeling the pressure. Zantetsu was surprisingly good at changing directions even while dribbling, and his unpredictability made things tense for Ryo. Zantetsu shot the ball. Ryo was startled, shocked by how the ball curved wickedly. Zantetsu then revealed that he hadn't even been aiming at Ryo in the first place, instead targeting Nagi. When Nagi stood up again, Zantetsu complimented him, when Nagi mentioned that it was a drag to deal with him. He asked Ryo if everyone was fair game. The Namioka, watching the chaos unfold, said that the game was finally getting serious as the timer ticked down. With only a few seconds left, Ego's voice echoed in the room, asking them what they were going to do. He called on the self-proclaimed geniuses to show their true egos. Anyway, that was the third chapter of episode Nagi. I thought that it was really cool to finally see Zantetsu, as I just honestly love his character, but we don't see him that much in the regular manga anymore, unfortunately. And in the end, when Nagi showed off a bit of his own ego, it was pretty cool, but it actually gets me super excited for the next chapter. Anyway, if you like Blue Lock and videos like this, then I would highly suggest you subscribe to this channel, and while you are at it, leave a comment and a like, as it helps out with the algorithm a ton. And if you are curious to see another video of mine, then please watch the video that will be popping up on the screen now. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.